The hospital never truly slept. Even at 2 in the morning, the corridors hummed with a quiet kind of life. Monitors beeping softly behind closed doors, wheels rolling across polished floors, the low murmur of voices carrying news that was sometimes good and sometimes not. Nadia had learned to find comfort in that sound. She had come from Nairobi on a 2-year nursing contract. The opportunity had felt enormous when she first read the letter. Seoul National University Hospital, one of the finest medical institutions in Asia. Her mother had cried at the kitchen table when Nadia told her. Not from sadness, from pride. But pride does not keep you warm at 3 in the morning in a country where nobody knows your name. Seoul was everything Nairobi was not. Ordered where Nairobi was chaotic. Silent where Nairobi was loud. Cold where Nairobi was warm. Not just the weather. Everything. Nadia was good at her work. Exceptionally good. Her colleagues respected her skills without question. But respect and belonging are two very different things. She ate her meals alone in the staff canteen. She walked home alone after her shifts. She called her mother every Sunday and said everything is fine. She was not fine, but she was surviving. And sometimes surviving is enough. The ward she worked was long-term care. Patients who needed time. Patients who needed patience. Some had families who visited every day. Some had nobody. Mr. Yoon was one of the ones with nobody. He had been admitted 3 months before Nadia arrived. Heart complications. Stable but not improving. His file said next of kin, unknown. In 3 months, not a single visitor had come. Nadia noticed him the way you notice a quiet room in a loud house. Not immediately. But once you notice it, you cannot stop noticing it. He was a small man. Thin shoulders, white hair, eyes that looked like they had seen too much and decided to stop showing it. He never complained, never asked for anything. He simply existed in his bed by the window and watched the world outside with an expression she could not name. And then one night, everything changed. It was 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. Nadia was doing her rounds. She pushed open the door to room 14 and stopped. Mr. Yoon's bed was empty. Now, before we go further, I want to ask you something. Have you ever noticed someone that everyone else seemed to overlook? Someone sitting quietly in the corner of a room that nobody else bothered to look at twice? Tell me about that person in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you are new here and you love stories that reach deep into places you forgot existed, please subscribe to The Story Verse TV. Because this story is only just beginning. Nadia found him by the window at the end of the corridor. He sat in a wheelchair he had pushed there himself, both hands resting in his lap, back straight despite everything. Eyes fixed on a building across the street. It was an ordinary building. 6 floors, grey concrete, dark windows. Nothing about it suggested it deserved this much attention. Nadia approached slowly. She did not want to startle him. "Mr. Yoon," she said softly, "you should be in bed." He did not turn around. He did not answer. He simply kept looking at the building as if it owed him something. Nadia stood beside him for a moment. Then she pulled a chair from the corridor and sat down next to him. She did not ask again. She simply sat. They stayed like that for 20 minutes, in silence. Just 2 people in a dark building and the sleeping city around them. Then Nadia helped him back to his bed and finished her rounds. The next night, he was there again. Same window, same time, same building. And the night after that. The other nurses had noticed too, but nobody thought much of it. Old patients do strange things, one of them told Nadia with a shrug. Just make sure he does not fall. But Nadia could not shrug it off. Something about the way he looked at that building was not strange. It was specific. It was intentional. It was the look of a man who had unfinished business with a place. So every night at 3 a.m., Nadia pulled her chair to the window and sat beside him. She never forced conversation. She just made sure he was not alone. 1 week passed, then 2, and then on a cold Thursday night, Mr. Yoon turned from the window and looked at her directly for the first time. His voice, when it came, was dry and slow, like a door that had not been opened in a very long time. He said 3 words. I was there. 3 words. That is all he said. I was there. And somehow those 3 words carried the weight of an entire lifetime. I want to ask you something before we continue. Have you ever carried a secret so long that it became part of who you are? Something you never told anyone? Something that sat with you quietly for years?
You do not have to share what it is. Just tell me yes or no in the comments. And please share this story with one person tonight who you think needs to hear it. Every share helps the Storyverse TV bring you more stories like this one. After that night, something shifted between them. Mr. Yoon did not suddenly become talkative. That was not who he was. But the silence between them changed. It became a different kind of silence. The kind that is not empty but full. Full of things being slowly decided. He began speaking in fragments. A sentence one night. 2 sentences the next. Always at the window. Always at 3 a.m. Always looking at that building. That building was not always what it is now, he said one night. Nadia waited. 40 years ago it was a university, he continued. Small. International. Not many students. But good ones. He paused for a long time. I was one of them. Nadia nodded slowly. She was learning his rhythm. Push too hard, and he would close like a fist. Stay patient, and he would open like a hand. Over the following nights, she learned small things. He had studied economics. He had been ambitious and serious, and certain that his future was already mapped out. His family was respected. Their expectations were enormous. He had never once questioned them, not until his 2nd year. One night he mentioned a name, just once, quietly, almost to himself, Grace. Then he went silent and did not speak again that night. But the next morning when Nadia came to check his vitals, she found something on his bedside table, a small photograph, old and creased at the corners, faded the way old photographs fade when they have been handled too many times over too many years. She picked it up carefully. 2 young people stood in front of that building across the street, both smiling. One was clearly a young Mr. Yoon. Bright eyes, proud posture, the world still ahead of him. The other was a young black woman, tall, graceful, laughing at something just outside the frame. Nadia stared at the photograph for a long time. A photograph hidden for 40 years. 2 young people smiling in front of a building that one of them would spend the rest of his life staring at from a hospital window. I need you to stay with this story, because what Mr. Yoon is about to confess will break your heart in the most beautiful way possible. If you have not subscribed, yet please do it right now, and leave me a comment telling me what you think that photograph means. I want to know what you are feeling right now. That evening, Nadia placed the photograph gently on Mr. Yoon's blanket. He looked at it for a long time without touching it. Then he said, her name was Grace. And he began to talk, really talk, for the first time. Grace had come from Nairobi on an exchange scholarship, one of only 3 international students that year. She had walked into his economics lecture on a rainy Monday morning and sat 2 seats to his left. He had noticed her immediately, not just because she was beautiful, because she was completely unafraid. In a room full of Korean students who kept their eyes down and their opinions to themselves, Grace asked questions. Loud, clear questions that made the professor pause and think. She laughed without covering her mouth. She argued about ideas with a passion that made the room feel more alive. Mr. Yoon had never met anyone like her. They became friends slowly, then something more, quietly, carefully, because they both understood that what was growing between them was not something Seoul was ready to see. They met in the university library after hours. They walked along the Han River before sunrise when the city was still empty. They talked about everything, Nairobi and Seoul, their families and their fears, what they wanted their lives to become. For 1 year they built a small private world that belonged only to them. And then his family found out. Mr. Yoon's voice did not change when he said this. It did not need to. The weight of those words was already visible in every line of his face. His father called him home one Sunday evening. The conversation was short. There were no raised voices. That was not how his family operated. They were quiet people who made loud decisions. He was told to end it. For the family. For his future. For everything that had been built before him, and everything that was expected after. He sat in that room and he nodded. Mr. Yoon looked at Nadia. His eyes were dry, but his voice was not. "I chose wrong," he said. Nadia had prepared herself for a story about a love that ended. She had not prepared herself for what came next. Mr. Yoon did not simply leave Grace. His family arranged for her student visa to be cancelled. False academic violation reported to the university administration. Paperwork filed quietly by people with the right connections. Grace received a letter one morning saying her scholarship had been revoked, and she had 2 weeks to leave the country. She never knew, but she went to the administration office and was told only that a complaint had been filed. No details, no names. She tried to contact Mr. Yoon. He did not answer. He had been told not to, and he obeyed. Grace packed her things and left Seoul on a gray Wednesday morning. Mr. Yoon watched her leave from the window of that building. He stood there and watched her walk away with her suitcase, and he said nothing. He did nothing. That was the last time he ever saw her. Nadia was very still. He continued. He never married. He built the career his family wanted. He became everything they had planned for him to become. And every single day for 40 years, he carried what he had done like a stone in his chest. He had tracked her life from a distance through the years. He learned she had returned to Nairobi, that she had married a good man, that she had children, that she had built a full and beautiful life. He told himself that was enough, that she was fine, that his silence had not destroyed her. But 6 months ago he had found out that Grace had passed away in Nairobi. Quietly, surrounded by her family. And something in Mr. Yoon had broken completely. He looked at Nadia with eyes that had stopped pretending. "She died, never knowing I loved her until my last breath," he said. "She died thinking I simply stopped caring. And I let her believe that. I did nothing." The corridor outside was completely silent. The city beyond the window was dark and still. Nadia did not speak for a long time. When she did, her voice was very quiet. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Why now? Why me?" Mr. Yoon looked at her with an expression she would never forget. "Because you are from Nairobi," he said simply. Nadia waited. "I have watched you for weeks," he continued, "before you ever noticed me. I watched you eat alone. I watched you call someone every Sunday and smile in a way that meant you missed them. I watched you care for patients that nobody else took the time to see." He paused. "You reminded me of her. Not in the way you look, in the way you move through a world that was not built for you, with your head up, without apology." Nadia felt something tighten in her chest. "I have been waiting a long time," Mr. Yoon said, "waiting for the right person to finally hear this. Someone who would understand both sides. Someone who knew what it felt like to be far from home. Someone who could carry this story back to where it belongs." He reached out and touched the photograph on the blanket between them. Very gently, the way you touch something you have been afraid to touch for a very long time. "Grace had a daughter," he said. "I know her name. I know she lives in Nairobi." He looked up at Nadia. Can you find her? I need her family to know that Grace was loved. Truly loved. Every single day, even when I was too weak to show it. Nadia looked at this small, quiet man in his hospital bed. This man who had carried 40 years of silence to a window every night at 3 a.m. This man who had been waiting not for forgiveness, but simply for someone to listen. Yes, she said, I will find her. Finding Grace's daughter was not simple. Nadia sent messages to contacts back in Nairobi, old nursing school friends, a cousin who knew everyone in certain neighborhoods. She described what she knew. A woman whose mother had studied in Seoul 40 years ago, whose mother had come home suddenly without explanation, whose mother's name was Grace. 2 weeks passed. During those 2 weeks, Mr. Yoon's health began to decline. Slowly but noticeably. His breathing was heavier. He tired more easily. Some nights he did not make it to the window, but he always asked Nadia the same question when she came for his vitals. Any news? Not yet, she would say, but I am still looking. On the 14th day, Nadia's phone buzzed at the nurse's station at 2 a.m. A message from her cousin in Nairobi. I think I found her. Her name is Amara. Her mother was Grace. She wants to know why you are looking. Nadia's hands were not completely steady as she typed back. Tell her it is about something her mother never got to hear. Tell her it will not take long. Tell her it matters. 3 hours later, Amara agreed to a video call. Nadia went to Mr. Yoon's room at 5 a.m. before her shift ended. She sat on the edge of his bed and told him. His eyes closed for a moment. When they opened again, they were different. Not happier exactly, but lighter. Like a man who had been holding his breath for 40 years and had just been told it was finally safe to exhale. The video call happened on a Sunday evening. Nadia set her tablet on the table beside Mr. Yoon's bed. She had arranged extra pillows so he could sit upright. She had combed his hair. He had asked her to. When the call connected, Amara appeared on the screen. A Kenyan woman in her 40s, warm eyes, her mother's cheekbones. An expression that was carefully composed but not unkind. Mr. Yoon looked at her for a long moment. You have her eyes, he said. Amara's composure shifted slightly. Just slightly. With Nadia translating when needed, Mr. Yoon told everything. He did not spare himself. He did not make excuses. He simply told the truth the way a person tells the truth when they have run out of time to tell it any other way. Amara listened without interrupting. Her expression moved through many things. Shock, anger, grief, and then something quieter. Something that took Nadia a moment to recognize. Understanding. When Mr. Yoon finished speaking, the call was silent for a long time. Then Amara stood up and walked to another room. She came back holding something. She held it up to the camera. It was the same photograph, the exact same one. 2 young people smiling in front of a building in Seoul. My mother kept this her whole life, Amara said quietly, in a small box under her bed. I found it when we were clearing her things. I always wondered who the man was. She never told us, but she never threw it away. Not once, in 40 years. Mr. Yoon pressed both hands over his face. His shoulders moved. The sound he made was very small, but it carried everything. She kept it, he whispered. She kept it, Amara confirmed. They stayed on the call for a long time after that. Amara told him about Grace's life, her laugh, her cooking, the way she used to look out of windows when she thought nobody was watching. Mr. Yoon listened to every word, like a man receiving something he had stopped believing he deserved. 3 days later, Mr. Yoon passed away peacefully in his sleep. The night nurse found him just before 4 a.m. Hands folded, face completely at rest, the photograph on the pillow beside him. Nadia was called in. She stood in the doorway of room 14 for a long moment. Then she walked to the window. She sat in her usual chair. at 3 a.m. and looked at the building across the street one last time. It looked different now. Not haunted, not heavy, just old. Just a place where two young people had once loved each other, before the world got in the way. Nadia sat there until the sky began to lighten. Then she took out her phone and called her mother in Nairobi. She did not say much. She just listened. To her mother's voice. To the sound of home. To the noise of a city that was loud and chaotic and warm. When her mother asked, "Are you okay?" Nadia thought about Mr. Yoon, and Grace, and the photograph that survived 40 years, and a daughter in Nairobi who finally had an answer to a question she did not know she had been asking. "Yes, Mama," she said. "I am okay. Some secrets do not destroy us all at once. They do it slowly, one silent night at a time. Some stories need exactly the right person to finally be told. Someone who will listen without judgment. Someone who understands both sides. Someone who knows what it feels like to be far from home. And sometimes the night shift is not just about keeping people alive. Sometimes it is about helping them finally. Let go. If this story moved you, I want to hear from you right now. Leave me a comment below and tell me honestly, do you think Mr. Yoon deserved to find peace at the end? Or was 40 years of silence too long to be forgiven? I genuinely want to know what you think. And if this story stayed with you, if it reached somewhere deep, please share it with one person today. Someone who needs to hear that it is never too late to tell the truth. Someone who is carrying something heavy and silent. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the Storyverse TV if you have not already. A new story is coming very soon, and I promise you it will be worth the wait. Take care of each other out there.